welcome to the March 30th, 2016 edition of the Paperboyz. I am Assistant Sports Editor Jim Sullivan, filling in for Doug Newhoff, who's on vacation this week. And I am joined by our dynamic duo. To my right, Nick Pateros. To my left, Jim Nelson. And I think we have four pretty good topics for you for this go-around, starting with the obvious, the NCAA Tournament Men's Final Four. We're finally there. We finally got our four. And so the obvious place to start is, guys, who do you like? Who's going to win it all?
Well, in my bracket, not to brag, but I have Oklahoma and North Carolina playing in the championship game, so I think I'll stick with those two teams. But who knows? I just think they're both playing really hot. That Oklahoma-Villanova game, I think, will be the best matchup in the Final Four, because you've got two teams that are playing at an extremely high level going into that. And, Buddy Hield against Archie DiGiacomo, is that his name?
Close enough.
Close enough. Yeah, but
closer than Kenny Smith.
That'll be a good matchup there.
Yeah, no, I think so too. That game, I'm really looking forward to watching. I think, I'm surprised Syracuse made it. I think a lot of people are surprised Syracuse made it. I think I'm more surprised the way Virginia kind of imploded down the stretch of that game in the Elite Eight. And if UNC can, if Marcus Page keeps on shooting the way he has been, for UNC, they're going to be really tough to beat. So I have UNC and Oklahoma playing again. I just thought Buddy Hield is just playing at a different level right now. And who's going to win out of that one? It'll be Marcus Page or Buddy Hield, whoever shoots better.
For those of you who have watched past Paperboyz podcast, you'll note that I picked Kentucky to win it 2 weeks ago. They lost. I picked Iowa State to win it last week. They lost. So if you don't want me to pick your team, just please call in and send money. No, actually, I don't know. For some reason, I was thinking about this morning. I like Villanova. And I can't give you a good reason why. I think they're solid from top to bottom. They have a big guy inside that can score. The guards are good. They play good defense. I think Jay Wright is a terrific coach. I think they get by OU. Though that's going to be an awfully good game. And I think Carolina gets by Syracuse. They played twice, beaten them twice. I don't think Syracuse can do anything to surprise Carolina as it did against Virginia with the press. So I don't know. I like that matchup, and I think it's going to be Nova's first championship since 1985. One more thing about the tournament, going back to Iowa State. Their season ended, of course, with a loss to Virginia, pretty decisive. And what are your thoughts about the way it ended? The storyline out of Ames now is that, well, it wasn't quite what we thought it would be, but it was still a pretty good ending after all that went on. How do you guys see it? Is that a pretty fair take on that?
Yeah, I think maybe you start to look back to the regular season, and it was a team in the regular season that you didn't feel like might have played to its potential just with what they returned. But I don't know if you could have asked more for what they did in the tournament. You get to the Sweet 16 and lose to a very good Virginia team that really should have been in the Final Four when you look at how that game went in the Elite Eight. But they just never got started in that game. Their defensive woes kind of came back to bite them, and I think I thought it would have been impossible to come back against Virginia after spotting them an early lead. Yeah. Although Syracuse, I guess, proved that it can be done.
You watch that team, and I think everything that there was that first five was so good, but you need in this game, day and age, and over that kind of a tournament, and even the season, you need more than five guys. And they really had six towards the end, and they were playing maybe Hallis Cook was getting some minutes, and that was about it. They were playing six guys. So if anybody got in serious foul trouble, they really didn't have somebody to come in. So if George got in foul trouble, they were hurt. They were hurting. Although Burton came in and filled in okay, but it was different when they didn't have George on the field. So if anybody, George on the floor, I said field, but I just think their depth and their defensive, like I said, their defensive deficiencies sometimes, and you never knew what you're going to get from Jaleel McKay from one game to the next. Some one game would be lights out, next game you wouldn't know much about him. I think part of that Virginia game, he didn't play a huge stretch. That might have been foul trouble too. So if they got in any foul trouble at all, they were hurting, and they didn't have any. Coach Prom didn't have anywhere to really turn it, in my opinion. But
The one thing that we'll never know, excuse me, about that game is how much of a difference a healthy Monte Morris would have made. He had, I think, pretty good assist numbers, 11 assists to 1 turnover, I believe it was. But he really wasn't a factor offensively. I think Brogdon and Virginia deserve some credit for that. But you have to believe that had he been at 100%, he would have made something of a difference. Enough to beat Virginia, I don't know. But he certainly would have been a factor. Burton was in and out. He really didn't contribute very much. And as you guys suggested, the bench just wasn't there. The defensive deficiencies reared their ugly head again, so,
And you had
So that was
Yang
that.
out for key
yes,
minutes there in the
that
second
was
half,
very
too.
decisive, but if anyone acquitted themselves well in this tournament was George Yang.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure what it's going to do for his draft stock, but certainly he went out on a high note if no one else did. So, moving on, or actually we could almost say moving back to Northern Iowa basketball, and something that happened after we recorded last week. For some reason, someone in Cleveland asked LeBron James what he thought about the NCAA tournament. And James said, well, he hadn't watched much of it, except for the last 20 seconds of all things, the UNI Texas A&M game, and he said, if I were playing for UNI, I would quit basketball. And what happened was a minor bit of a media storm, media frenzy. People around here were upset. Some people wondered why he would bother to comment on that, and for a day or two, it was a pretty decent story, as any story with LeBron James is, and then it died. I guess I would like to revisit it just for a second. And what did you think when you heard that? Was he kidding? Was he doing something else? What was his agenda there?
I think it's just like Coach Jacobson mentioned, but just kind of a candid response to a question he was asked. I don't know if he was anticipating being asked that question, and he might have said it kind of off the cuff and wasn't really thinking about. I don't think he was trying to think of it as a way to, degrade the UNI players or what they've accomplished. I don't think he probably knows much about that UNI basketball team at all. But I just think it's just kind of an off-the-cuff response, and because he's LeBron James, everyone pays close attention to everything LeBron James says.
Yeah, I think it was just a common jest. I don't think, I think he was really joking. I can't believe he'd be serious, because he's had some tough losses too, and he didn't think about quitting after he lost in the NBA Finals, did he? I mean, when they were expecting him to win, especially when it was with Miami and they lost. I mean, I think he was just one of those things. That's what he noticed, and if anybody watched that last 20, 30 seconds, I couldn't watch Texas A&M play in the next game, because I was like still so stunned that maybe that this isn't Northern Iowa playing in this next game against Oklahoma. I mean, it's like it was hard. So that to me is like but I wouldn't I don't think he meant anything by it really.
The one piece of advice I would give LeBron is don't plan on a stand-up comedy career after basketball ends. And the whole thing was just so odd. I agree. I think he was trying to kid around a little bit, trying to have some fun, and he just didn't know how to do it. And I think the part where he was tone deaf is using the word quit. You use the word quitter on any athlete, and it's red flags go up, people get insulted and hurt. And if he had said it somewhat different, like if I had been in that game and lost, I would have walked away for a while, or I would have been very disappointed or hurt, or a better choice of words, I think, would have helped his situation out there a lot. And the one thought about quitting, Ben Jacobson made very clear that people in his program don't do that. And the other thing is, people forget that after that 12-point collapse in the regulation, they had the lead 3 times in overtime. They had chances to win the game, and to A&M's credit, it came back and matched them, and then finally took the lead in double overtime. So it wasn't like UNI completely fell apart for the entire conclusion of the game. They found a way to regroup, hung in there, and just didn't win.
If you look at a hypothetical, if LeBron was on that UNI team, does he take ownership for that loss, or does he deflect blame?
I think he acquires Kevin Love and then blames Kevin Love
Or does he fire his coach?
He fires his coach too, so who knows. All right, now moving on to another topic, women's college basketball, and specifically UConn. The Huskies are in the Final Four for the 9th straight time, prohibitive favorites to win it all. And this has stirred up what's become an old debate, some would say a tired debate, about whether UConn's dominance is good or bad. So I guess my question is, are we ever going to get past this? We've talked about it here, people talk about it all the time. Is this ever going to go away?
Oh, I don't know. I think it's good for basketball, though. They're playing at a different level than everyone else, and you want to see greatness. I look at last year, remember the Kentucky platoon team, they played UCLA in a game earlier in the season, and they're up 41-7 at halftime, and people were talking about, that Kentucky team, and I was just fascinated by that game, because you wanted to see one team that could completely dominate another team at the highest level, and it is incredible, nothing like I'd ever seen before. If UConn beats, who are they playing? Mississippi State?
That's who they beat
Sweet 16.
in the Sweet 16.
Yeah, they beat by 60. If they beat them by 20 points, nobody's talking about it, because everyone expects UConn to win that game by 20 or 30 points. But to win that by 60, now you've got my attention. You want to see the game at the highest level, and it's up to other teams to get to that level.
Well, yeah, I get that too, and I think that's correct. they said, are you hurt in the women's game? Well, I don't think anybody was complaining when John Wooden won 9 in a row at UCLA. Did he hurt the men's game at that time? No, everybody brought it up. Everybody brought it up, brought that level up. The thing is, but you look at it, and I'm with the guy, I'm not watching UConn, because their first 3 games they won 52, 46, and 60. I mean, one of those happening, that's, it's not interesting to me to watch that anymore. I mean, because that's what they're just doing to everybody. But there's some people that love that, especially the diehard UConn fans. They love that. They love seeing the dominance. And maybe I should take a look. Maybe it's impressive, but you watch it I like to go on a game and think both teams have a chance. Maybe that's me. I'm always like the underdog guy. I like to think the underdog's always got a chance. And you look at this tournament now, and I don't think anybody's really got a chance. You look at UConn's got, 17 Final Four appearances. This is 9th straight. The other 3 teams, the Final Four, they're all making their first Final Four appearance. So there is some parity there.
That's the ironic thing, is
Yeah.
this tournament actually has had a lot of upsets, and more upsets than the men's tournament if you look at the seeding. But just because UConn's been so dominant, everyone's like, where's the parity in women's basketball? I think there is a lot of parity. There just isn't a strong contender, a number 2 team that you think can compete with UConn.
My big thing too there is I think there's a big step from the Power 5 conferences to the mid-majors. You looked at it, 2 mid-majors won first-round games this year. 12. It was 12. Both were 12 seeds. Albany and South Dakota State both won, but those are only, I think, mid-majors that made it past the first round. There might have been one other one, like what you would call. So I think the difference now between those Power 5 and the, let's say Big 10 or Big 12 against the Missouri Valley. I think the gap between there is wide. And now it's probably the job of the Valley to try to get up to the level of the Big 10 and the Big 12.
Honestly, I don't think that gap's going to close anytime soon either. I did a story going into the basketball season on the declining numbers. Last year was the first time nationally that volleyball was more popular among high school girls than basketball. And I think now you're seeing a lot of basketballs, the top athletes are going and playing volleyball. It's not a contact sport, and it's drawing some of the better athletes. So if there's a smaller pool of elite athletes coming in to the college game, I think that's going to kind of accentuate that type of a balance there.
Here's my thought when I initially heard this was that the question is the wrong question to ask. It's not, is UConn bad for college basketball? The question is the lack of competition, perceived lack of competition for UConn bad for basketball? I would say yes, just because we haven't seen a consistent rival rise up yet. Notre Dame's had their moments, other teams have had their moments, but when you have a 1 seed beating a 5 seed by 60 points, it just doesn't look good. And again, that's not UConn's fault. What do people want? Gino Auriemma will start coaching, making bad decisions in games, recruiting players who aren't as good? No way. He's going to do what he does. He's going to recruit the players he wants and train them the way he wants, and their odds are they're going to succeed. Now it's up to the rest of the field, if you will, to come back and try to catch them. Notre Dame's been close. Iowa State's been close at times, but no one has been able to rise up and consistently stay with them. And when that happens, I think you'll see a change, a shift, at least in viewership and attention and so on. And one more thing that kind of bothered me about this whole business was that the comparison that's being made to Tiger Woods. Tiger Woods, well, was it bad when Tiger Woods, or did anyone complain when Tiger Woods was golfing? They wouldn't say it was bad for golf. Well, they did. Actually, there were people that did. And it's an apples and oranges comparison. People in golf don't compete the same way people in basketball do. It's not like Phil Mickelson is guarding Tiger Woods when he takes a shot off the tee. They operate independently of each other, by and large. In basketball, in football, and so on, they're head to head. That's not the case in golf. So that comparison is not a valid one. Having said that, I think it's up to everyone else to go get UConn. That's the only way that this is going to change.
I'll just tell you this, I'm bitter about the whole subject because about 2 or 3 years ago, I was out in Vegas. Florida State was like 29-3. They were playing UConn in like the Elite 8, and it was Florida State plus 31. I put $10 on. I thought it was easy money, and they lost by 42. So Gino cost me $10.
Well, you'll just have to send them a bill and see how far you get with that. You'll probably be the subject of his next press conference, too. All right, now, this weekend, or Sunday and Monday, Major League Baseball officially opens. We've been going through the Grapefruit League, the Cactus League. We've been hearing expectations or hype about the Cubs. We've been hearing about the Cardinals, the Mets, and so on. Now that we're finally here, going past who's going to win from a team standpoint, is there a player or two you're looking forward to seeing the most, a guy that you really want to see how he does?
Well, here, you guys, everybody knows I'm a Reds fan, you guys make fun of me about it. I'm still trying to figure out who they're gonna have on their roster right now. They got rid of everybody, so I don't even know who they got on their roster. But yeah, there are a couple guys, I'm looking forward to. I'm actually looking forward, because regionally, I'm looking at Minnesota. I'm looking at the first baseman brought in from Courier, who hit, 90 home runs the last 2 years?
Park, yeah.
Park. I'm wondering how that's gonna adapt. I don't think he's gonna hit 45 home runs, but is he gonna hit 30? That'd be kind of interesting. As a Twins fan, what do you think about that one?
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting thing to watch, is the history of ball players coming over from the Far East in Minnesota has not been good. They brought in a shortstop or infielder a couple of years ago. Can't even remember his name. He was an absolute disaster. It was terrible, and he was gone after 2 years. Having said that, that has nothing to do with Park and how he's going to perform. And the early returns in spring training have been pretty good. The guy I'm looking forward to seeing is Miguel Sano, because of the way he finished last year when he came up. And can he do that again? Or are pitchers going to adjust to him, make it tough for him? I think there's a lot of questions up in the air like that. Glenn Perkins is another one. He's a veteran. He's had some injury issues the last couple of years, and he hasn't looked that good to me in spring training. So how will he look? So that's what I'm looking at, is a couple of those guys. And from the Cubs, the guy I would look at is Chris Bryant, is someone who's really had a great year last year. Can he do that again? Can Rizzo do that again? They have a lot of guys who are very young and very, very good, but it's asking a lot, I think, to expect them to duplicate that high level. They may have good years, they may not have great ones.
Yeah, I was going to say Chris Bryant is, I think, one of the more interesting players in baseball going into this season. You look at the returning Rookie of the Year, what's he going to do that second season? Last year he hit 29 home runs, 99 RBIs, and remember, he wasn't with the team at the beginning of the year because they wanted to get that extra year of control for him. So I think it'll be interesting to see what he can do in that second year. Rizzo was kind of in that MVP type of conversation, made some great plays. That catch he made on the tarp last season was one of the better plays of the year. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what those younger players on that Cubs organization can do. And I'm also kind of curious with some of these other guys nationally, like Bryce Harper, Mike Trout, just to see if they can continue to play at the level they've been playing the past couple of years, because they've been pretty exciting to watch as well.
I was listening on the radio yesterday. I was on the road, and I was listening to this interesting conversation they were having about the Washington Nationals and Dusty Baker, and they made some roster decisions. They have two top prospects, Trey Turner and Michael Taylor. Both guys they anticipate in the future. Trey Turner is at shortstop, and Taylor would be playing outfield, but Taylor would be over Jason Worth, and Turner would be over Denny Espinosa. And they chose to send Turner down. And there's a big debate about that because Turner was having pretty good, not a great spring, but a good spring. He's the future. He's going to steal a lot of bases. And but they were talking about how they sent him down, and Espinosa and Worth are both these veterans, and they had a pretty fractured dugout last year, or room. And these guys are veteran guys, and the reason, and Dusty's a veteran guy, a Favors veteran. It was an interesting conversation about why he kept these two, because Espinosa's been struggling big time. He's like 4 for 33 in the spring, which, I know that doesn't mean a lot, but it was an interesting conversation about why Dusty kept this, because, he has to keep that locker room together, or the clubhouse together a little bit, and this team has got high expectations with the pitching staff, and it was kind of an interesting conversation. What were you guys thinking about,
I don't think any team's done less with more talent than the Nationals the past 3 years.
And so, yeah. Their thought is they bring up Trey Turner and they keep Espinosa around, and then Turner struggles, and they got to send it out, and now he's pissed off, and then he comes up, or sorry, he's mad. The same thing. So it was interesting. And so it was more, the decision was more about what was better for the clubhouse and almost what was the performance on the field.
Here are 3 other names that I think are going to be interesting for different reasons. One is familiar to Cub fans and White Sox fans, Jeff Samardzija, who's out in San Francisco now and being counted on to produce. And here's a guy who has this great arm, an imposing-looking figure out there, and it doesn't add up. He doesn't produce what you expect him to produce, and the Giants need him. The other one that I look forward to playing is Giancarlo Stanton. When Giancarlo Stanton hits the ball, it goes a long, long way. And of course, he had that bad beating, a while ago, and how he's doing now will determine a lot towards how the Marlins do. The third name is Tim Lincecum. Tim Lincecum, once upon a time, was a great pitcher in major leagues, and he's been falling off, and he's struggled to try to find it, and he's now, to my knowledge, does not have a team yet. And I wonder, is he going to get one? Is someone going to take a chance at him, or is he done? What's he going to have to do to get back into the big leagues? And I don't know. It'd be nice to see him. He's fun to watch, but His days as a primetime pitcher may be done, I'm afraid.
Those are three good names there.
Yeah, seriously, Stanton, the former Michael Stanton when he first played. I would be afraid if I was in the 30th row of the upper deck in left field with a glove and maybe a mask if he hit a line drive home run to me, because I mean, that boy, when that ball comes off his bat, it's just explosive.
It's scary, he's a scary guy to watch out there.
I wouldn't want to play infield, definitely. I'd quit.
Nor would I want to be a spectator down the third base line when there's no netting.
Yeah.
I would be, excuse me, ducking for cover if that happened. All right, so I think that's about enough for this edition of the Paperboyz. We will be back at you next week and have some interesting things to say about, I think, high school sports, which should be in full swing by the time we record again. We'll have a national champion in both men's and women's basketball, and even in men's hockey, believe it or not. So, until then, we'll see you next week.